Our guests today, they're welcome. They've arrived. They're a dynamic duo known for their hit YouTube series, Map Men. They have over 1.7 million subscribers on YouTube, over 250 million views. They're here to chat to us all about their new book. It is a beautiful production. It's called This Way Up. I've been talking about it all morning. It's available now. Welcome to the show, Mark Cooper-Jones and Jay Foreman. Welcome, fellas, and thanks for being here.
Thanks very much for having us.
Second time in one day, from the canteen to the 17th floor.
We saw you downstairs in the queue and you had a copy of our book, and it's the first time that Mark and I have seen someone out there in the real world holding a copy of our physical book. Yeah.
And how, is this the first time that the book has been kind of brought out to the planet? Is that the point?
Well, it came out on Thursday last week. You were the first person we actually caught reading it, and then we realised, well, you were interviewing us later.
So I guess it doesn't count.
It does count. It does count very much because it's a brilliant book. And let's start at the beginning. For those who haven't seen a YouTube one of your YouTube's clips or what have you, or indeed picked up the book, who's going to pitch it for us, just to give us a sense of it, and then we'll get going after that.
We haven't decided.
Well, you go, Jay.
So it's Map Men is a series we make on YouTube. It's a series of 10-minute videos where Mark and I sit behind a desk and dress up in silly costumes talking about our favourite maps. So it's basically a comedy sketch show. We get compared a fair bit to Horrible Histories, except it's about geography.
Yes.
Lots of silliness and lots of fun facts as well.
But you're Python guys, aren't you? You're Monty Python guys. So
I think you can probably...
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, you can see the influence.
I'm just trying to figure out, at what point did you realise this thing was going to take off? Because on paper, you might think, why don't we just do maps on YouTube? And I can't imagine anyone saying that's a great idea until it becomes a great idea. So how did it take fire?
Sounds pretty niche, doesn't it?
It does sound niche.
I mean, it was even more niche. I was doing a stand-up comedy about being a geography teacher.
Yeah,
that was my act. And me and Jay met on the comedy circuit. Jay was doing sort of musical comedy, and we had a bit of overlap in sort of like some geeky interests. Jay had started the YouTube channel on his own and was making videos about unfinished London infrastructure projects. Again, very niche.
You can never get too geeky if it's YouTube.
Exactly. So, but we just thought, it would be good to do something together. It would be more fun that way. And if a few hundred people see it, then that's more than at a typical comedy gig. So that would have been success for us, just a few hundred people. And then slowly this thing that we called Map Men did take off, and the numbers just kept getting bigger. And we thought, wow, this is there are other people like us, other map geeks out there.
Exactly, like loads. But you don't have to be a map geek necessarily. I think it's just, if you're just interested in the world, that'll do it. Because so many houses have a map of some sort hanging up or framed in it anyway, so it kind of brings you there. And you say in your book, you're not experts. You say you're not historians, you're not cartographers, so to speak, but yet you've accumulated the knowledge. So why should we buy the book and believe that what we're reading is not necessarily true, but is well backed up?
I think you'll enjoy the book if you agree with us that the worst maps are the best maps. Yeah. I think you're much more likely to stare at a map or to, even share it online if you notice a mistake with it. So one of our favourites, there was a map published a few years ago by IKEA, and it was a big colourful world map with New Zealand missing. Yeah. So it's just so much to talk about. Like, why did that happen, and why does New Zealand go missing all the time? Yeah. And there was another map from...
No, stick with this. This is so fun. So IKEA, some guy thought, did he write to them, or like how?
It was a guy on Reddit. He was in his local IKEA store in Washington, D.C., and he noticed that New Zealand was missing. So he then added it to a forum called Maps Without NZ. Yeah. And it took off, and it broke free from the internet. It was on proper news networks all over TV because everybody loves spotting a mistake on a map.
They love spotting a mistake,
The thing about that map is that IKEA were just about to open their first store in New Zealand when they released this map. It was the worst timing possible.
Okay, so it was one of those. I just love that, because I know in Ireland, where maps are very contentious, sometimes if you say we have a competition and it'll be the UK and Northern Ireland, and the rest, the Republic of Ireland, is disappeared.
Yeah, it's just blank. It's just
or if it's the Republic of Ireland, and they might cut out. I think we did on a TV show. We cut out Northern Ireland, or somebody. Or I quickly trying to find someone to blame. Somebody cut out Northern Ireland, and always find deputy heads will roll, as they say. But somebody, and sure enough, there was uproar. People are very protective about them.
They are, and sometimes it's very serious, and sometimes it's very silly. But wherever on the silliness spectrum it is, people, it turns out, really care about maps, and they love looking at bad maps, which I think is why we wrote the book, because we want to celebrate all the worst maps in the world, whether it's New Zealand missing or a massive mountain range in Africa that was never there. Or one time on CNN, they had a great big picture that says hornet outbreak in Hong Kong. And they showed Hong Kong with a great big map of Brazil and labelled Hong Kong, right where Rio should be. Map mistakes, if you look for them, they're everywhere. And they're usually really funny.
And in some countries, obviously, there are quite stringent laws about how you produce the maps. And if you get it wrong, and you can find yourself in jail in some places, in sort of China and in India. And we thought that the UK was completely sort of free of mapping laws. But we have a chapter about a sort of small and sort of relatively silly story about how Shetland Islanders, they've always been presented in maps of the UK in a little inset box, you know, because they're so far away from the British mainland. They're dragged down, and there was sort of a bit of uproar about this. And I can't remember the year off the top of my head. Can you remember when?
2018, they changed the law.
There was a Scottish mapping requirement where they now have to put Shetland in its correct geographical location on all government-produced maps. And so that was a bit of fun.
Okay.
Can you go to prison for like not putting Shetland in a box?
I don't think it's a prisonable offence, Jane.
Well, it should be. My God. And if reform get in, you know it will be. Okay, let's get a little political there. So let's talk about the other thing when you mentioned that, one of the big news stories of the last couple of years was in America. And this isn't a political point scoring exercise, but when Donald Trump brought the map and saying he took a Sharpie out and said it's all happening here as well. He basically redrew the map of America with a Sharpie just to prove a point, which is remarkable. I mean, that's what can be done. And the Gulf of Mexico renamed the Gulf of America. And so mapping and cartography, generally speaking, is still, it brings out the passion in people.
Absolutely. There's a lovely theory going around that the reason that Donald Trump was so keen to get his sights on Greenland is because he's been looking at world maps that use the Mercator projection, which make Greenland look much, much bigger than it really is.
That's more and bigger. Can I ask you about this fellow, Martin Waldseemüller?
No one's sure how to pronounce it. It's Waldseemüller, I think.
Waldseemüller. That'll do nicely. Let's bring him into the room. Who's he?
He was a German cartographer who was making maps into the early 1500s, but he made a very famous map. He made the most expensive map ever, or the map that sold for the most money. Really? So his map had a very special word, right? He wrote the word America in very small letters on Brazil, as it happens, and the American Library of Congress was so keen to have this sort of first rubber stamping of the word America. They paid $10 million to buy it, and so that is the most expensive map ever.
Holy smoke. I think the namings of countries fascinates me. So obviously, and then they will evolve. So New York was, what was it, something else before?
It depends how far back in time you go. It was New Amsterdam at one point.
And it goes on.
And not named after York, as many people think.
Was it not?
Named after the Duke of York.
Oh, crikey. Well, let's keep going. There's some great books in recent times about travelling the seas, like The Wager. David Grant's book is beautiful, and The High Seas by Hampton Sides, also lovely, where you have Captain Cook and how they decide, or anything with Shackleton in the polar discoveries, and they go, look at that beautiful array of ice, whatever. You go, what's your name? Murphy. Well, that's going to be the Murphy Strait now. You know, it seems quite random, doesn't it?
Well, this is the wonderful thing, is like, if you have the privilege to be an explorer, you get to name parts of the world after yourself. Or if you run out of names, you can name things after your friends. So just look at Antarctica. Nobody lives there. There's no locals to dispute it. So everything is named after the explorers that went there in the 19th century. There's a part of Antarctica, very few people, even very few penguins have been there, called Graham Land.
Right.
We're scraping the barrel.
And what do you do? I'm the carpenter. Graham, you're up. Stephen Brown has been on to say in the National Trust Ham House in Richmond, there's a globe from the 18th century. And as a Kiwi, I was fascinated to see Australia and New Zealand were drawn as one land, as no one had mapped it mapped in between at that point.
Well, it's better than missing New Zealand off altogether, isn't it?
At least it's getting a look in some shape or form. So when you guys, do you hate maps now? I mean, or do you, are you attracted to them?
That would be quite the revelation, wouldn't it? We just keep doing this, but we loathe it.
No, I think we're very lucky that we found something to sort of, like, we started making YouTube videos about it because we thought, we're into this, it's a bit niche, but why not? And aren't we lucky that we're still doing it, because it got bigger than we ever expected. And I don't know about you, Mark, but I'm not yet sick of maps.
No, and like every map has a different story behind it.
Yes.
So, you know, that's the thing. You sort of peel back the layers and you reveal characters and history and exciting events within a context. So, you know, we're happy to keep going.
And you can tell what age a map is, obviously, by, you know, if by, well, that helps. But I suppose but you don't have the date. You're looking at it. If you look at, say, Yugoslavia, then, and then you have the Balkan conflagration, and suddenly it's a whole new map.
Exactly.
You
You
know,
can have fun doing a bit of detective work on a map, trying to figure out what was there.
Yeah,
when.
whether it's a world map and you're looking at Yugoslavia, or, you know, you can pick up an A to Z and look through and go, oh, that's not a roundabout anymore. Oh, that's become a two-way street, and
Well,
so
most
on.
people can't do that, but you can, Jay.
So this is one of your things, is the A to Z, is your fascination with the A to Z.
I genuinely, like, my parents had an A to Z on the shelf, and I genuinely used to leaf through it like it was an entertaining picture
This was
book.
your happy place, was it? The A to Z.
But even now, like, I walk around London and I sort of, you know, the A to Z helps me imagine where I am. Like, oh, okay, this is an orange street. Turn left, this is a yellow street. And, you know, if you're a taxi driver, that's how you think about London.
If we're having a creative difference, then Jay will just go off and have some time with the A to Z just to calm down. And it's all okay after that.
Kind of in a fetal position in the room with the A to Z. When you were a geography teacher, was that a job that you enjoyed, or was it killing you?
I absolutely loved it. I actually had the elbow patches on a jacket
you went
as
full.
well. I went full in.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
went full in. But I just think there is something inherently funny about geography teachers. I don't know. They sort of feel like they're the quintessential teacher somehow, because geography is this subject that in a way, it only exists in schools. You know, when you come out of school and then you study a bit of geography, maybe like volcanoes, or you can become a specialist. But geography sort of fizzles away and ceases to be a real thing. And there's something sort of tragic and funny about that. I mean, we're trying to reclaim it, obviously, in the real world.
Yeah.
But
Well, funny enough, I came in one day and I said, I'm sorry, I look like a geography teacher. And a few geography teachers got in touch and said, how dare you? I was saying, no, take it as a compliment. It's just it's a geek chic thing.
exactly right.
Isn't it
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that?
Lots of browns.
But lots of browns. What you're saying is, what you're doing, whether it's on YouTube or with your new book, is it's a kind of teaching in some ways. Like it's really accessible, relatable teaching.
Yeah, I think so. A lot of people say, how do you manage to combine those two contrasting things? Like, it should either be educational or silly and funny.
Oh.
And Mark and I are of the opinion that actually those two things go together very well, because if you make something silly and funny and fun, you're going to remember it more. And I think that applies to the book or YouTube videos, or, you know, the syllabus if you're teaching geography.
It was only after 2 or 3 episodes of Map Men being released that some people got in touch and said that it was now being used occasionally as an educational resource by teachers who had run out of ideas on a Friday afternoon, right? But and at that point we needed to make it a lot cleaner, didn't we? I mean, not that it was ever...
Get rid of the filth, do better fact checking, but, you know, it's lovely. Like,
It's a lesson for us all.
We make the videos with ourselves in mind. We just think, is this going to be fun for us to make? Is it going to make us and our friends laugh? And it is so wonderful to hear feedback from other people liking it, and from geography teachers as well. Like, that was never the intention that it's an educational resource, but you hear the same thing from the people that make horrible histories. It's being used now because kids and grown-ups, it turns out, they love to laugh when they learn things.
Well, you do it so well, lads. I'm really, really happy to meet you, and I'm delighted for you with your success. And this book, as I say, is an absolute beauty. It's a beautiful production, I might say, as well. So, one for the Christmas list for, like I say, the history and politics and geography lovers among you. Mark Cooper-Jones, Jay Foreman, the men behind Map Men, and they joined us at the top of the tower. And it's been lovely to have you both here today. Thank you, and good luck.
Thanks
you for
very
having
much.
us.
Thank you.